Welcome to Scoop World Order. We got a double dose tonight. We got the bank coming on, bringing the heat on the recruiting trail. We're talking a little bit about Big Ten Media Day, but a lot about recruiting, a lot of stuff going on with Ohio State. So we're going to get right into it. But first, as always, thank you guys for tuning in. Click that like button. As always, click subscribe. We just flew past 20,000 subs on our YouTube page. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate that. If you enjoy these live shows, click the little dinner bell. It'll give you a little alert. And shout out where you guys are from. Again, we've had Korea, Peru, we've had European countries. Everywhere is watching. Canton, Ohio, Naples, Massillon. So keep shouting those out. We appreciate you guys as always. Gonna bring in my good friend, Mr. Bill the Bank Greene. Bank, there's been a lot of stuff going on in recruiting. We lost Kingston. You think we're gonna get Branden Baker. Aaron Scott's committing on Sunday. Where do you want to start at with this? I mean, the Branden Baker thing, just because people are so obsessed with tackles, number one tackle in the country, a kid out of Mater Day. You feel like we're going to get him. You had some really compelling stuff to say in the pre-show. Why are you so strong on the Branden Baker to Ohio State trail at this point?
Well, and again, it's more guess, maybe educated guess. I've been doing this a long time, over 20 years, and so it's a guess based on how I've seen things develop over the years. Oregon. I think Oregon would have Branden Baker right now had Adrian Clem, their O-line coach, who's really good, by the way, really good, but he left them, in January or February to go to the Patriots. And Bill Belichick knows something about O-line coaching too. Bill Belichick's hired a good one in Adrian Clem, took him away from Oregon. So Oregon doesn't do a nationwide search to get Harry Hiestand or the greatest O-line coach in America. This is Oregon. Oregon can get people to come work there. It's a great place to work, by the way. They pay well. And it's Oregon. No, they hire Alik Terry, who was at Oregon as a GA, assistant O-line GA a couple of years ago under Adrian Clem. He then left Oregon and went to the Minnesota Vikings in the NFL, where last year he helped them as an assistant on the D-line. So you can't tell me that Branden Baker is going to trust his NFL future to Alik Terry. No knock on the guy. I just don't know that he's more qualified to develop an NFL lineman than Justin Fry is. And there is a relationship with Justin Fry and the family from when Justin was at UCLA. So I think if the kid was going to Oregon, he'd be committed to Oregon by now. And I think if Adrian Clem had stayed there, I think the kid would be going to Oregon. But I don't know. I think when you just look at it from a pragmatic point of view, in that the most important thing is going to be development for the NFL. Okay, and then with O-lineman, you played the position. That O-line coach is your daddy. Okay, if you're a wide receiver, head coach and O coordinator mean a lot because the system, you want to play wide receiver in Brian Hartline's Ohio State, or you want to play it in Zach Smith's Ohio State, where you got the block 75% of the time and get hurt. So system means a lot. But an O-lineman, I think the O-line coach is your daddy. And I don't know how you feel about that. I think more than any other position, I think the O-lineman and the O-line coach, man, that's got to be the right fit. I can't believe Branden Baker is going to entrust his NFL career to a guy that was a defensive line assistant in the NFL last year. And a guy that's, I think he was the head O-line coach one time in his career at Hawaii, I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I just don't buy it. I don't believe it. And I also, that's me just doing some deductive reasoning there. But I also do have a source pretty close to this one that thinks it's going to be Ohio State. And when we talked about reasonings and stuff like that, we kind of both agreed on O-line coach being the difference here. And I think Justin just casually mentions Luke Whipner, Paris Johnson, DeJuan Jones, and then says, who's Alik Terry? What names are he dropping right now? I put those three in the NFL. They all three were better under me than they were the year before. So I think it's a no-brainer. I think, I know the kid's older brother played at Oregon, probably had a great experience. Also probably played for Mario Cristobal and probably not Dan Lanning. So I think Ohio State's getting him. I think, everything that I can gather from the one source that I talked to, and then everything that I can just kind of put the puzzle together, which is what we do when you've been covering recruiting for over 20 years. You're just trying to put that puzzle together. I'm not going to have Hayes Fawcett whispering in my ear 2 hours before the kid commits. So I've got to try to figure it out. And that's where I'm at. I think Ohio State's getting Branden Baker because Justin Fry has 100 times the recruiting chops that Elite Terry does. And that's where I'm at. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I got thick skin. You can come at me. But it just makes all the sense in the world that Branden Baker is not going to go to Oregon and entrust his NFL future to a guy that's never done it before.
I was going to say, apologize for being on mute, but I agree with you completely because Quentin Nelson was the guy that we offered in 2012. Me and Ed were working together on the O-line, and he ended up going to Notre Dame because he loved Harry Houston, because Harry Houston had Notre Dame. He had Olin Kreutz vouch for him. He had these NFL guys vouch for him. He said, look, I had a guy that was in the Pro Bowl 7 times who is my biggest supporter. And the NFL thing is what these guys are all going after right now. And they're a top 5, tackle recruit, a top 5 quarterback recruit. I mean, the money is substantial. I mean, you saw what the Georgia tackle who plays for the Giants, Andrew Thomas, has got $105 million or $120 million and $80 million guaranteed. It's big money. And there's no position in the world that's harder to coach than offensive line. And, Bill Belichick, who, me and you both think is the GOAT, he had Matt Patricia as his own line coach last year, and it was an absolute disaster. And he decided to make it a business decision, go get Adrian Clem, a guy that he drafted for the Patriots. He's had kind of a mercurial rise from UCLA as the line coach to the Steelers, to Oregon. Now he's with the Patriots. So I'm telling you, like, the technical aspect of the O-line is so important. You need a guy that's going to push you, drive you. And it helps when you have that substance behind you, because a guy that, a lot of people don't give Justin Fry enough credit for is Chris Lindstrom. Chris Lindstrom signed for over $90 million with the Atlanta Falcons. He's a guard, Boston College guy that Justin developed, him and his brother. Chris actually came out and spoke to the team before the bowl game against Georgia. Because he plays for the Falcons. He signed this huge extension. And that was a 3-star guy that Justin turned into a first-round pick and a kid who's paid for with generational money. So then you throw in Paris going 6th overall, Dewan All-American last year. Luke Whippler's going to make the Browns this year. Again, I think that you got to read the tea leaves on this one. I think you did a spectacular job of doing that because, when you compare resumes, like that was something that we fought with Ed when Ed was line coach. He didn't really put many guys into the league when he was at Notre Dame. Zach Martin went a year after he left. Zach was actually with Harry for a year before he went to the Cowboys. So a lot of Ed's guys that he developed actually went pro with Harry, teaching him for a year. But we fought that with Ed because Ed didn't have a real big NFL resume and Harry did. So we lost Quentin Nelson. We lost the big tackle Mike McClinchy, who ended up going. He signed a huge deal with the Denver Broncos, first-round pick for the 49ers. So again, I think you're right. I think the development thing is really critical. These kids are obsessed with being 3-and-out NFL guys, and I think Justin Fry did it with Paris Johnson. So it's not just theory anymore. It's testimony when you're actually saying, hey, I took a guy, and I coached him for a year and he went 6th overall in the draft and he's in the green room. And that's what a kid like Branden Baker dreams of. I want to get your reaction on Kingston. So Kingston was one, everybody thought he was going to Ohio State. He goes on a retreat, picks Notre Dame kind of last second. Were you surprised by that? I mean, I know that you weren't as high on Kingston as some of the analysts were, and I really agree with a lot of stuff you say because I mean, a kid that's 230 now,
Yeah.
he's like three biscuits away from being 245 and kind of eating his way out of being a speed linebacker in the modern college game. Was it a big impact that we lost Kingston? Or, I mean, I really don't, like I said, I really like your body type thing because, those big body linebackers just aren't the deal anymore. Those Schlegels and those 255 guys, they can't cover in the spread like you used to in the olden days. But your reaction to us losing Kingston to Notre Dame, and how do we replace him?
Well, they wanted him, number one, and they wanted him pretty bad. So that tells you a lot right there. Um, I was just told today, not too long ago, really, that one may not be over. So he hasn't signed anything yet. So don't. I wouldn't rule him out yet. I'm not saying he's coming to Ohio State, but I think that door is open. So I would hang in there a little bit with Kingston. Do I like him? Would I take him? Yes, I take him. He's a football player. But I worry about those big bodied, 230-pound high school linebackers, 230-pound high school junior linebackers heading to their senior years. Sammy Brown, same thing. Sammy Brown, number one linebacker in the country for everybody. I don't know, man. Sammy looks like he's about 235, 240 to me. Can he stay there? I don't know. You want to get him too much bigger, and most people don't stay at the same weight they are as high school juniors. They don't usually stay there. So I would I take Sammy Brown? I'd take him in a minute. Would I take Kingston? In a minute, but with some reservation there. I would have rather had Edwin Spillman, the guy who went to Tennessee, who's a flyer, that Ryan Shazier type. Not saying he's Ryan Shazier, but that type. Just a blazer off the edge. I think that's what Ohio State needs right now. I love Tommy in the middle, but then, Steel Chambers, nice player. Cody Simon, nice player. Those guys aren't going to get you 10 sacks. Together, combined, they won't get you 10 sacks. So Ohio State, I think the leading sacker last year was JTT or Jack with 4. They used to get 50 sacks a year. They used to get 45, 50 sacks a year. Now they're down in the 30s. They got to get the sack totals back up again. And I would have loved to have had Edwin Spillman. So to make a long story short, I wouldn't count out Kingston yet for coming to Ohio State. And I would take him. But, man, I would love to see him get a bullet, an undersized guy, rather than these big guys. Ryan Shazier was 205 coming out of high school. You'd take him again at 205 or 210. You'd take him in a minute. So I think that's really what this defense needs. But, they want Kingston, and I'm not going to rule him out yet. I think Laurinaitis might still have some cards to play here, and it's a long way until December. So let's take a step back on Kingston, see what happens there, and I'm not ruling him out yet for Ohio State.
Is part of that because of some of the seeming instability that's going on at Notre Dame right now? I mean, Marcus Freeman's a teammate of mine, but they've lost their offensive coordinator in Tommy Reese. They lost Harry Heastan. They lost their D-line coach. Their strength coach resigned yesterday, excuse me. I mean, it seems like guys from prominent spots are jumping ship, which is, I mean, that would raise a couple red flags to me if you lose your line coach, your coordinator, your strength coach. And those are the backbones of your team, and they're all jumping ship. They lost their running backs coach because Dylan McCullough came in from Indiana. Is that part of the reason why you think Kingston isn't over yet?
Yeah, there is a lot of instability there right now. I was told, the strength guy is not anything related to hazing or him being in trouble. I think it's more a personal thing, and I don't know if it's health related. I was told it wasn't trouble, which when I first saw he resigned, I thought hazing right off the bat, because this is the new topic now. Yeah. And the lawyers are now involved, and there's gold in them hills, them hazing hills. So you're going to see a lot of this going on. But I was told that was not the case, that this is strictly personal, and I don't know what that means, So, and if I did, I wouldn't say, So it could be health related. But then you see the other guys, it does seem like a program that's got some things going on there. And Marcus, I love Marcus. Marcus is one of my favorite guys. Was he ready for this job? This job is not like, man, this ain't taking the Vanderbilt job or the
No.
Tech job.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a hard place to coach. And every guy that's coached there since Lou Holtz will tell you how hard it is to coach there, man. It's rough. And I don't know if Marcus was fully ready for this. So we'll see. But I think Kingston, we'll see how Ohio State pursues, if they still do pursue him. And I think they're going to. I was told they're going to. And I don't think they were too scared off of this commitment to Notre Dame. So let's see what happens. I mean, you see Kingston show up at Ohio State, for some big game this year, then you'll know back on.
Yeah, I personally think Notre Dame's the hardest job in college football because there's no talent base in Indiana. The expectations are the same as Alabama's.
Yes.
I mean, you're on ABC every week, so when you lose to Marshall, the whole world gets to watch that. Or you lose to Cincinnati. I mean, I do you think Notre Dame is the hardest job in college football? Because I don't know how you're supposed to be good, especially with the academics. Because that's the thing. Like you eliminate basically 95% of the South Florida kids right off the top, and then you got to go get these kids that are doctors and try to get them to cover Jerry Jeudy and Amari Cooper, and I mean it just ends up in disaster. But they don't want to lower their expectations. They want it to be what they say it is. I mean, do you think that's the hardest job? I think it is. I mean, for the expectations, it's ridiculous.
It's an impossible job. I mean, you saw Brian Kelly leave an elite program like Notre Dame and run to the SEC. You would have never seen that. Has never happened before, I don't think, in the history of Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the program. Notre Dame is college football. The Notre Dame head coach is not supposed to go to LSU. Yeah. But you know what? Brian Kelly's a great coach, and Brian Kelly knows how handcuffed you are at Notre Dame. Brian Kelly took him to the playoffs. He's won a ton of games. I don't think the fans missed him when he left. I don't think he was all that appreciated there. He's going to win a national championship at LSU in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, and he's going to be appreciated then. And because Brian Kelly can coach, there's no doubt about it. But he's not coaching doctors and lawyers and teachers, right? You got dudes right now who may end up being doctors and lawyers, but they're going to go to the NFL first.
Yes.
So he's got a war chest behind him too in terms of recruiting, and he can get guys that can win a national championship where he couldn't. I think he maxed Notre Dame out. I think going to the playoffs and getting smashed by that great Alabama team, I think that's a great coaching job.
Yep.
I mean, and all he got was criticism for that because he couldn't win a national title. So yeah, I think it's an impossible job. It's just, you haven't, they always say, well, we recruit national. We don't need, I think Ohio State has an easier time recruiting than Notre Dame does.
Oh, it's not even in the same universe.
Michigan's easier than Notre Dame is. That Notre Dame job, and you never want to coach at a job where expectations are a 10, but reality is a 7. I don't want a job like that. That's Miami. Miami's that. Miami expectations are 10. National titles. Well, it's not going to happen in the current landscape of college football. It's just not going to happen. The reality at Miami is 9-3 is a pretty good year there. 10-2, you break out to Champaign. They're not going undefeated anymore. They just can't get those kind of kids anymore like they used to. The landscape has changed. So I don't want a job where the expectations way are higher than what reality is. I think Texas A&M is that kind of job. I don't know where they come off thinking that they're supposed to be winning national titles, but they do. The expectations there from the money people are really, really high. I don't want that kind of job.
Yeah. Well, I just think if you're at LSU and you're Brian Kelly, you're the same vanilla white dude that you were at Notre Dame, but magically there's all these really big, strong, fast defensive tackles that are from Louisiana and they dream of being LSU Tigers, and now you're really cool and they want to play for you. When you can be the same guy at Notre Dame and they have zero desire to move to South Bend, Indiana. So, you go see Bama, you go see those guys in the trenches, man. You better have the war daddies. And LSU, I've played against them.
And he's going to get dudes there. That's the thing. And people laugh when I say, "Oh, he's going to win a national title in the next 3 or 4 years," and I really believe that. LSU has a couple national titles in recent history. Who are those head coaches? Who are those head coaches that won those
I was there for Les Miles, and then your boy Ed Orgeron.
Are those guys looked at as just the most super intelligent coaches in the history of college football? They are not. They are not. If you can win with Les Miles and Ed Orgeron, you have a program that can win, baby. You know what I mean? And Brian Kelly's 100 times better coach than those two dudes. But he's got that same recruiting machine behind him that he didn't have at Notre Dame. He's going to get the same kids that Les Miles and Ed Orgeron got. And he's 100 times better coach. They're going to win. They're going to win. Kirby is not going to keep winning every year after year after year. You can't do that in college football. I think Alabama's slipping. And you and I both huge Nick Saban fans, and we respect totally what they've done. I think there's some slippage there. And I think Brian Kelly's ready to jump into the upper echelon to get LSU back to where they have been. So that's a team that I would say I would keep an eye on. I don't think Brian Kelly thinks he made a mistake by going from Notre Dame to LSU.
No. He's right. He's right in the catbird seat, baby, because Nick's slipping. He's got Tommy Reese now instead of Bill O'Brien. He doesn't have Bryce Young. He doesn't have Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, I'm there, and LSU beat him last year with the Heisman quarterback and all that. So, you know, and VK had that bad slip up versus Florida State week 1. Everyone thought he was a clown, and then they slowly got better. And I promise you, by the end of the year, nobody wanted to play those guys. I promise you.
They're going to be good this year, and I think their future is really, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Let him get all his guys there, playing to his system. They're going to win. I'm telling you, LSU is going to win a national title.
I am totally with you. Aaron Scott.
Notre Dame job is just impossible. I mean, Marcus had to take it. It's a great opportunity for him. I hope he succeeds because I like him so much. Class, quality dude. But, man, he bit off. He bit off a lot there.
Yeah, that is again, again, when you're 37 and you get offered, or 36, you get offered that job and life-changing money and family set for life, you got to dive in head first, man. But yeah, it's tough, especially when your staff starts off with Harry Heastan and Tommy Reese and Saban poaches Reese. Harry retires, which again, I don't know if that's an indictment on Marcus because Harry ain't that. It's not. He's not 80. I mean, Donnie Scarnacchia, the coach, so he's about 80 years old, and Harry ain't quite 80. He's probably 60, and he retired. Coaches never retire, but we'll see. We're gonna shift Aaron Scott committing on Sunday. I just can't imagine a guy whose dad's an Ohio State fan on his dad's birthday doesn't come to Ohio State. Are you feeling the same vibes I am? I know that he loves wearing the Oregon stuff and the Michigan stuff and tweeting Charles Woodson. Do you feel it's Ohio State and it's just been kind of like a big facade, or am I reading this completely wrong?
No, I agree with you. I think it is Ohio State. I had somebody pretty close to this about, 3 months ago telling me, don't believe all the Michigan hype. And I feel it's Ohio State. Even if you would eliminate the whole dad's birthday, committing that day and everything, if you take all that out of it, I still think it's Ohio State pretty strongly. And then when you add that in, committing on his dad's birthday, I'll be shocked. But, man, the thing is, these kids are great anymore at, disguising their choices. It's amazing. Because we went through a period there where everybody started figuring them out. Because once the kids told a couple people, then everybody knew. Well, now they know not to tell anyone. And when you see Kingston makes his announcement the other day, not one crystal ball. Not one. That's unheard of. And then Branden Baker right now, I checked this morning, there were no crystal balls, not one. That's unbelievable. These kids are good right now at what they're doing. But I do think Ohio State is getting Aaron Scott. I feel pretty strongly about it, if you can feel strongly these days. I think he's coming to Ohio State.
Is there a next commitment after Aaron Scott that I know this is? I think this is the hardest recruiting cycle we've ever been through because nobody knows anything. I mean, people are like, oh, it's going to be Kingston the morning he commits, then at night he commits to Notre Dame, and every Ohio State expert is wrong, because he changes his mind last second. I mean, because I think part of it is that Ohio State thought they would get him, and then they could change his mind, for whatever reason. Is there a guy that you think would be the next commit after Aaron Scott?
I'd have to look at the calendar here and see who's coming up. I think Edric Houston is coming up, I think in August. KJ Bolden, I think, is August.
Yeah, he's like August 5th.
Yeah. So, and August 5th is, stone's throw away. So, yeah, I don't know right now, really. I thought they had the McClellan kid locked up. Now I'm not so sure about that, the wide receiver. These kids are good anymore, man. I'm telling you, they're good. Like I said, there used to be the layups when you would see Wilfong would get it, and then he would tell the team, their writer, that he had it, and then the team guy would put it in about an hour and a half later, and then there'd be the other guys would ride on Steve's coattail. You don't see that anymore, man. It's tough right now. So, and I credit these kids, man. These kids have learned. They've really learned how to play the game better than they did, in the past, 15 years. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not going to go out on the limb. And I've never been the when guy anyway. Like, who's next? Who's going to be? I don't know, man. It's too tough. It's hard enough figuring out what school they're going to, let alone trying to figure out when they're going to do it. So, yeah, too tough for me. Dylan Stewart, I don't know when his announcement's coming. I mean, Ohio State is set to really reap the rewards here of having this defensive staff on the job for their second year. Last year, those guys were mostly first-year guys, hired new after Ryan Day ran that staff. And, they were in on so many good linemen and missed them all in the end. And people, naturally people freak out over that. Although I think the Mickens kid's going to be really good. People kind of forgot about him because of Keon Keeley and that group.
And Mateo,
Mateo Uiagalelei, but Pickens, that kid can play. Or Mickens. So we'll see. I don't know next. I mean, that's out of my league. The next part is that I'm not good at that. I'll say Aaron Scott next.
Take the easy one.
That's like Hayes Foster whispering me one there. I'll get that. He'll be the next guy to commit, whether he commits to Ohio State or not. I feel good, but I don't know. But yeah, he's 72 hours away.
Yeah, I love the kid because he's committing on his dad's birthday, so that saves him having to buy him a tie or a gift or a six-pack of beer or whatever. So,
sure.
KJ Bolden, how are you feeling about him to the Bucks? We're just gonna talk about the big ones. You already hit about Branden Baker. How do you feel about KJ Bolden at this very hour?
Like cautiously optimistic, and all of that traces back to I was in Florida last February to watch South Florida Express, those guys play, and catch up with J.J. Smith and those dudes. And I was with the South Florida Express coaches and guys and just struck up. We were all talking to K.J. Bolden, and he started really, opening up, and I had to stop him and say, dude, I am a reporter. I work for Scout. I work for 24/7. I work for Buckeye Scoop now. So, and he's like, and I said, look, everything you've said is off the record. Everything you said is off, and everything you say after. I'm not interviewing. I'm just hanging out with my dudes. So I will say that everything he said was pretty pro OSU to me. Now this was last February, so that's pretty flimsy to go off, that kind of info, which is months old. But I'm not going to betray the kid, but I felt pretty good about Ohio State's chances just going off that conversation. There is family ties with Perry Eliano. They are related in some way, and we'll see. I mean, he's a great player too. I watched him in that 7-on-7 and just thought, my gosh, he's a safety, but he can play corner. No doubt in my mind, he can play corner. And this is after watching, Ronnie Hickman and Tanner McAllister trying to cover guys. This guy can cover. Okay, you want to play man-to-man with safety? You can play man-to-man with KJ Bolden. You can put KJ Bolden on JJ Smith, and he's going to play him. He's going to battle him. So, yeah, if you want to play man-to-man with safeties, this is the guy you can play man with. You know, he would be an unbelievable player in that Jeff Hafley single high safety look. You
Oh
put that guy
God.
in the middle of the field, 15 yards off the ball, and he's got everything covered in the back end. Everything. So I love KJ Bolden. I mean, I think KJ Bolden is a top 4 or 5 player in America. I think Branden Baker is a top 4 or 5 player in America. So these are dudes. Dylan Stewart, oh my gosh, would I take that guy in a minute?
Oh God, yeah.
Why? Because he can get to the
Yeah.
passer. I don't see
Yeah.
Edric Houston. Edric Houston's a great player. I don't see him as a 15 sack guy. I see him as a
Yeah.
combo, kind of a Cam Hayward combo guy that you love to have him on your team. But Stewart can be a guy that can be a double-digit sack guy, and they need that. If you go back and look at stats, there was a time when Ohio State was getting 45, 50 sacks a year. They're now in the 30s. Those extra sacks make a difference. They make a difference to your DBs that you got out there on an island. They like to have those sacks and those pressures. So Stewart, Bolden, Baker. I mean, I would give back J.J. Smith to get one of those guys. You know what I mean? Ohio State has had, wait a minute, they've had Olave, Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Marvin
Yep.
Harrison,
Yep.
Mecca Buka. They win anything with those guys? I don't.
No rings.
No,
Right.
you can't even make the playoffs with Wilson and Olave and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Give me dudes, man. I mean dudes, and those guys can play. I mean Baker Stewart, KJ, man. You line up and go to war with anyone with them guys.
So he didn't say anything like, me and Perry Aliano, when we were on our family reunion in Miami, we go over to Mama Lucy's and eat red velvet cake and split a whole cake together, like best friends or anything.
Anything about Mama Lucy? I don't even know if that's still in business. I don't know. I haven't checked out Mama Lucy's in a while. That's a good point. I have to ask Brett Getz about that.
That's the NIL deal. Well, we hit on all the 5 stars, man. So we're going to wrap this thing up. Appreciate you as always. Again, that was fantastic. Any final thoughts as we go into Aaron Scott weekend and we go into Edric Houston? And it's funny because we got a lot of big guys coming up that are going to commit early in the next 2 weeks or so. Any final thoughts on those?
Yeah. Bolden, Baker, Stewart are the guys. Those are the guys that win national championships.
Sure.
Okay. Those are guys you win national championship with. I know everybody loves the skill guys. Those wideouts, they're fun to watch. I love them. So do you. But man, those are 3 difference makers. Branden Baker can anchor an O-line. Bolden is going to take care of that whole secondary for you. Okay. And Stewart knocks the quarterback down, which Ohio State hasn't had that. So show up the back end with Bolden, knock the quarterback down with Stewart, and protect your quarterback with Baker. Yeah, that's a good building block, man, for a team. I'll take them 3 right now. I'll take those 3 guys and give back Aaron Nolan, J.J. Smith, the People's Kid. Give them all back. Give me those 3 to build around. I would start over if I had those 3.
Hey,
I feel strongly about those 3 guys. I really do. Those 3 guys are all top 10 type players in my book. I don't think any of them are rated top 10, but they would be in my book. I'll take Stewart over Dylan Raiola, who's ranked number 1 in the country. I would take Baker or Bolden over J.J. Smith, and I love J.J. Smith. Oh my God. J.J.'s Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
I could do without Marvin if I got, dudes in the back end, dudes knocking down the quarterback, and dudes protecting my quarterback. I want those more. I really do.
I agree, because when we won our last national championship in 2014, we had Taylor Decker at left tackle, 1st-round pick. Joey Bosa knocking down the quarterback, 1st-round pick. Von Bell, 2nd-round pick, big extension guy. Those are 3, 4. 2 5-stars, and Taylor should have been a 5-star. So, those are your cornerstones, man. So that's a great point, Bank.
Yeah, I agree. I love those 3, and they're in the mix for all 3 of them. I mean, they're right there. So, see how it goes.
That's perfect. So we're going to wrap this thing. I appreciate you, Bank, as always. We're going to clean this thing up. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Again, Bank bringing the heat on the recruiting game. As always, appreciate you guys tuning into this one. Bunch of 5-stars up in that mix, so we got to get ready to go and see if we can nail some of these guys in. Get the next 3 weeks are going to be huge on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys aren't members of BuckeyeScoop.com, training camp's here in a week. You better join up because we've been breaking all the news. It's been fantastic. We've had a great ride. If you enjoyed this content, please leave us a like. Click subscribe and click that little dinner bell. You'll get a little alert when we go live. Shout out where you guys are from. Again, we got Massillon, we got Canton, we got Columbus, we got Lewis Center, got Naples, got LA. People from all over the country are watching BuckeyeScoop.com. We appreciate you guys, as always, tuning in. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Paul, Brass Tacks, all of our regulars. Love shouting you guys out. Appreciate you guys being on here. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I'm about to jump on BuckeyeScoop.com and just rock and roll because our content has been cranking. It got a ton of expansion stuff, a lot of recruiting stuff, really great shows, and we appreciate you guys as always. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Go Bucks.